official organization. We talk, and other board members have spoken about a lack of trust with a lot of government entities. The ones that we are feeling that really don't have our best interest or aren't pushing hard enough for answers. It is, I will say for me personally, it's still very hard, and I might get some chuckles, it's very hard to sit and hear anyone refer to what happened as a leak. Because by any definition it wasn't. And it just, for me, is very disrespectful to the severity of what this community just went through from October to February. So I kind of bring that up as, you don't have to comment. But every news agency, every organization has taken SoCalGas's lead in trying to diminish the scope and the perception of what occurred here. And I find that very disrespectful. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. I have brought this issue with you before about ARB Station 1. And I'm pretty good at beating dead horses, so I'm going to keep asking you about this because I would like to understand why ARB number 1 was consistently higher than the other stations. And it makes it even harder to let that go when ARB 1 has been shut down. Can you comment on that?
Well, I believe we've got an answer from ARB. I mean, they're the ones that operate that. I will say that, this decision went through Department of Public Health. We consulted with them to say, are we comfortable looking at the data set that these, despite that it's elevated relative to the other stations, is it at the end of the day, consistent with typical air? And, also with the coverage of our mobile platform going through that area to help confirm, okay, are there any differences that we need to be aware of, and being on site. So, with the combination of the flights, the combination of the, ground-based measurements, I think we're covering a lot of bases there. So, again, I know it's hard to lose a visible, station.
Dr. Lowe, I gotta tell you, I was not asking for, an investigation into why it was higher. The one thing I asked for is, at least let's confirm that this is an anomaly, or have another analyzer show at the site that it's lower levels, and that might be the analyzer. But I will tell you, I received no response from ARB or anybody.
Yeah.
So if you tell me you've gone through the analysis locally next to it and found out that it was lower, that satisfies me. I just never got that answer.
And that's what I'm saying. With mobile monitor, it's the same monitor that goes through here, close to the PRNC Community School, goes down, towards Rinaldi. It goes down in that area. And if we're not seeing a change in concentration, I just asked today, okay, we passed through yesterday. How are the levels relative to where site 1 was relative to up here? And he said it was pretty consistent. So there was no gradient per se that was observed.
Well, then I will tell you this is a communication problem, because I had to bring it up at the hearing board last time, and you noticed that the hearing board said, wait a minute, why is this like this? We're going to go into the hearing board on Saturday, and I'm hoping the hearing board got some answer that satisfies them. They will tell us about it.
Satisfied with the same information.
The other question that I mentioned the question to you in the communication. In the planned monitoring for the field, there is this criteria that SoCalGas has 14 days to stop a leak of gas that measures at below 50,000 ppm, and 5 days to stop a leak above 50,000 ppm. What you're telling me then, that an accident like the one that happened, which was above 50,000 ppm, it would have been acceptable under the new rule to have 5 days of it spewing gas at above 50,000 ppm before SoCalGas stops it, and that is in compliance with their new criteria. Basically, we're saying it's okay for people for 5 days to be under the same condition that we were under, and that would be of no consequence to SoCalGas because they are in compliance with the monitoring criteria. That is something that the community cannot accept. It's just not a workable outcome. If they cannot stop gas from spewing out when it happens, maybe they shouldn't have gas there. The technical question, I will bring it up to AQMD. I realize that your responsibility goes from when a leak happens to what you do, because you handle the air. But the problem is the whole system is integrated. In your setting the criteria for what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for them to stop a leak, do you find that 5-day exposure to be okay under the new rule? How can that be acceptable to AQMD, I guess is a better answer, better question.
So I'm not the one directly working on that. However, like I said in the presentation, it's consistent with the ARB rulemaking. I think the comments with respect to the rulemaking process could be held there, so that way you have that voice and opinion heard to the people who are making the rules.
So this is something we have to take to ARB. So
ARB and then also probably the hearing board too. I mean, they will have input, of course, on the file.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just a second. I have 2 cards on item 6 that I would like to ask, like to come up. One of them, Alex, and then Helen.
Oh, and then I should also mention, since we're also doing rulemaking, that's another appropriate venue to express that.
You know, we all have jobs in our real lives. It would be nice not to have to make that point 15 times before somebody listens.
Yeah.
Alex?
I also turned in a card for Maureen for this agenda item as well.
Well, I saw a card from Maureen. It doesn't have an item number, so I didn't know what to do with it. So,
Okay. My question is about the off-gassing that was reported, I forget what month it was. What is the status of the off-gassing around, well, SS25?
So relative to SS25, I think we mentioned in some previous reports, and you can see that online with our mobile platform measurements. On the west side, and closer to SS25, the levels of methane are really typical. What we're looking at more, as Jason looks at, Jason Hector, you have to hand it to him for a look at the website, that on the east side is where we're seeing occasional elevated levels of methane. And again, that was more speculation in terms of, well, maybe that was related to what we saw in Site 1, but again, that's more speculation. But that's why we are doing ongoing on-site facility measurements. As I mentioned in Phase 3, it was indicated that we were going to go away from the mobile monitoring, but because that issue still is there in terms of seeing that there's some potential elevated concentrations out there, we're still continuing out there, trying to find out where that is, get that feedback to SoCal Gas, and also work with our compliance unit to see if we can follow up on those elevated levels.
And so on the east side, you're saying you are finding elevated levels, you're just not sure entirely
They're
where it's coming
instantaneous.
from?
They're not high. They're not anywhere near the level of
And
where
it's coming through the soil or through
we
other
don't
well
know.
pads or pipes?
We've tried discussions with Dogger because, again,
Right.
like Dr. Sim said, that it's an integrated system. And we specialize in air. We don't know underground movement of gases, so we have to work with our partners that do specialize in that. They had to reach out to some national experts. We're still kind of waiting to see how gas migration may be affected or how long it takes. So.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. And I have a lot of questions. If I can think of your best question.
The note taker has a question.
I'm sorry.
Alex, maybe?
Hi, Jason. When there are, say, really high spikes, do you get an alert notification?
We have a system whereby if we're looking at hourly, I look at it daily.
Okay.
To track.
So if it's significant, and you're saying it hasn't reached that point yet, if it does, would you alert the school? Would you alert, you say there's a monitor here, so would there be a way to alert the school to get the kids out of, outside if it was really high? Do you guys have a system like that?
So that's usually a health call, and when I see methane in the measurements, methane, as I mentioned, doesn't have a direct toxicity.
Right, but
So-
you talked about the compounds and the particulates. You said that's
Right.
also being measured.
That's also being measured.
Right, so if those are high, would you alert the school to get the kids out of the,
we work with our Department of Public Health. We have to make sure that they're at levels that would call for an evacuation. Of course, if we see some levels of methane, we wouldn't say evacuate based on methane.
I understand that,
Right.
but you have something like that you'd be able to.
Well, we
take
have
and
direct
work with.
numbers to some of the schools, obviously, because we work with them. We would more go the route of the media advisory, and then any of the local contacts that we have. As mentioned before, I think, as he mentioned, we don't have quite within in our in-house AQMD, the river system to call everybody here. We have to be dependent on other notification systems.
Yeah,
So that's why we rely more on the
I
media side.
understand, but I think for us that those that live here, then it's just a longer duration of exposure until we get through all those outlets and.
Right, and that's why I'm going to take back the feedback about the notification, because that is something that maybe in the interim needs to be looked at. But I think it's when we get more towards the finalized form, where you have a notification based on some monitors that are out here, it'll be a little bit more well integrated. Taking comments of, you're opted in automatically, and you have only the option to opt out at that point. I mean, those are all comments that are good to put into the notification plan for the people who are signing up. But I mean, comments are heard, so if we have a chance to look at it to see if that is possible.
Maureen?
I was in the criminal court yesterday for SoCal Gas when I got the phone call that there was a leak at 10 o'clock in the morning the following day. Okay, number one, you keep saying re-injection, you'll be there and all this. You sound like you're going to keep this place open. We don't want that. Okay, and my other thing is, I was watching on 9/11 about the firefighters and what they went through years later from all that. We're going to go through that because we don't know what was all spewed out of that thing for months. And we're all having problems here. Many people are sick, many people are moving away and everything. This health study has to start now because I'm having problems, I'm finding things, there a lot of people are. And I don't want to be like these firefighters dying years later and it's all from this stuff in their air. We need your help. Come on, help us shut it down, okay?
Hi, Jason. Thank you for coming. I was one of the people from the community who asked you to come here because I think we're getting a lot of questions here. I'm just going to make some comments kind of quickly. The fence line system, it's good to hear that we are going to get a fence line system. I wish it would have come from AQMD and you could have put your name on it, but instead it came from the judge. Okay, but we have it and we appreciate it and we need it. Thank you for that. You mentioned that you can't get a perfect seal on this facility. And yes, I am the one always checking the mobile monitoring because this is something that's important to understand what is happening at that facility. This is all we have. We have one little fence line, 30 feet, and we have this. So I would encourage you, and that's why I'm glad to see Mr. Degonia is here. I would like to see more of the mobile monitoring, getting back to the every day or almost every day. And then I did go to Sacramento and listen to the AQMD hearing with some of the other members of the board. CARB meeting, I'm sorry, the CARB meeting. And the threshold and the regulations of the 10,000 to 25 is not consistent with ARB leak. It starts at 1,000 and it goes from 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000. So I would like you to explain, maybe after I finish, how you say it's consistent with CARB, because it's not. And then on the verification of complaints issue. Verification of complaints. We have a big problem. We need to do this better. The hearing board expressed concern about complaints not being verified. You acknowledge this is a problem, so I'd like to hear some innovative solutions. And I'm glad to hear that the drone, that you're looking into drones. I appreciate that. I think it's a much more effective way to do things than to be walking around this 4,000 acre facility and try and monitor it. Use the drones. It makes a lot more sense. And also the point about the leak recently that came up that did not get found, it just shows that the infrastructure is not set up. You should be picking up these leaks on your monitors. So get the monitors set up so you can pick up the leaks. Thank you. I know we're busy.
I think you wanted me to comment on the CARB regulation. I think with regards to the provision that's in the leak detection program, there's several different tables, as Jason mentioned, and the one at least that was selected, I think, is the Tier 2 table. So that's consistent with the Tier 2 table. As far as the selection for that, I'd have to get back to you with the people who are developing that decision. So I can try to get back to you. We'll be in touch. Yeah.
Okay, so my concern is that if it does, they start re-injecting at the facility, and right now they have 20 wells that have passed all the testing. Has the facility ever been injected with only that small amount of wells in its lifetime? Has it always been the 100 plus? Because now if we're only going to 20, we're putting a lot of stress on 20 wells that has probably never been done. So the wells are tested based on the entire facility working. And the 20 that are, is it in one area? Are they across? There's 2 throughout. Like, how is it really going to be balanced and pressurized when it's 20 out of 115? And that's my concern.
Okay, so I'm not a facility expert, but what I can say is on the Dogger website, I believe it does show the results of the well testing that was being conducted. So you can see the 20 that did pass the testing. As far as your other questions, it's probably better for SoCal Gas operator manager or Dogger if they understand that.
And it's actually on our Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council website. There's a place where you can see the map from Dogger. It's on our website.
Great, thank you for that.
Julie and then Matt,